Hello from the Dukascopy TV studio in Geneva. We discuss the topic, the rejection of the fixed exchange rate by the Swiss National Bank with Professor Frank Hollenbeck from the International University here in Geneva. Professor Hollenbeck, welcome to the studio.
Well, thank you for having me here.
Yeah, last Thursday, Swiss National Bank caught everybody by surprise. They rejected the fixed exchange rate to the euro, and then the Swiss franc appreciated in value by 30%. Why did the central bank act like this?
Well, you can either fix your currency or you can run independent monetary policy, but you can't do both, okay? And what's happened since the Swiss central bank has fixed the currency to 1.2 is they basically have lost control of their money supply. For example, the amount of euros, dollars, yens that they've had to purchase has increased foreign currency investment almost 100%. And we can see that the Swiss central bank's balance sheet has increased almost 50% since they established the floor. Okay, this goes on top of the fact that M1 has continued to increase. For example, M1 has increased almost 130% since the financial crisis of 2008.
So in 2011, it seemed quite a wise step to do. So the Swiss National Bank saw that the franc was appreciating and wanted to help the Swiss economy. Therefore, the peg was introduced. So was that a wise step?
Well, they also said that the Swiss franc was overvalued. Okay, for me, the word overvaluation is loaded language. Okay, we have to remember that in a capitalist economy, okay, it is supply and demand that determine prices. Everybody who's willing to sell a product at a certain price can find a buyer for that product at that certain price. Well, that means that most things, okay, almost everything, including currencies, is neither overvalued or undervalued. We don't talk about the price of rice being over or undervalued, or we don't talk about oranges being over and undervalued. So for me, the term over and undervaluation is really a term that governments use to push a certain, to trick, I would say, the general population into accepting a particular strategy, okay, well, monetary strategy. Now, when we look at exporters, it's also more subtle. Okay, in the sense that exporters are not hurt that much by an appreciating currency. In the first place, exporters can now hedge their foreign currency risk. We now have a whole bunch of financial instruments such as futures or swaps in which they can hedge their foreign currency risk both short-term and long-term. We also have to recognize that for many exporters now, they also import their inputs. In other words, globalization has forced them to look, to scour worldwide to basically find the cheapest inputs. So an appreciating currency may reduce their export revenues, but it also will reduce their imported costs. So in other words, their profit rates won't go down by as much as a lot of people believe because of the appreciation.
So still a lot of leaders from Swiss economy warn of the consequences. They call it a tsunami, this is SNB decision. Do you think it's probable that the Swiss National Bank is going to introduce another peg, maybe at a lower rate at 1.1?
Well, first we have to recognize is that a currency movement is going to have some winners and losers. For example, the appreciation of the Swiss franc will benefit Swiss consumers. In other words, they will now find a lot of European products a lot cheaper in Swiss francs. Also, we have that firms that import many of their inputs, okay, and then sell on the domestic market, those firms will also benefit from the appreciation of the Swiss franc. Now, about establishing another peg, I think the Swiss Central Bank has what I call crossed the Rubicon, in the sense that basically they have told speculators that there's a certain amount, there's a pain threshold, or we can say a increase in the monetary base that the Swiss are not willing to accept. So in other words, if they were to try to establish another peg, okay, let's say like at 1.1, it would basically be setting up a one-way bet for speculators, okay, because they now know that the Swiss central bank has a pain threshold, okay, and how much they're willing to let the money supply increase.
Professor Hollenbeck, what would this decision now mean for the Swiss franc and also for the euro? So we are in the week where a major decision from the European Central Bank is ahead. So what are the perspectives now?
Well, we have to remember that a currency is determined by differences in monetary growth rates and anticipations of differences in monetary growth rates. And one of the reasons that the Swiss franc appreciated so much is that everybody expected the Swiss central bank just to follow the European central bank's monetary policy. So now what we have is that the anticipation is that the monetary growth rates will differ. Okay, and if the European Central Bank does continue to basically print money to buy government bonds, and Switzerland does not do that, then we can expect a continuous appreciation of the Swiss franc. It doesn't mean that short term it won't go back up to 1.1, 1.15, but I think long term you can expect a relative continuous appreciation of the Swiss franc.
Mm-hmm. Professor Frank Hollenbeck, Professor of Finance here at the International University in Geneva, thank you very much for your visit today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching. Do make sure to keep clicking back on the Dukascopy TV website for latest updates and exclusive interviews. Have a great day and see you next time.